Have you ever just felt it? That creeping sensation that the woods are actually watching you? Like the darkness between the trees is hiding something that knows exactly where you are. Well, let's jump right into this incredibly atmospheric explainer that breaks down the deep psychological terror lurking within the Appalachian woods. Today, we're unpacking a narrative called The Hungry Echoes of Appalachia, and let me tell you, it is an absolute masterclass in building tension. It takes our primal, ancient fear of the dark wilderness and twists it into something entirely unnatural and deeply unsettling. We're going to break down exactly how this story constructs its horror, examining the very psychology of what makes us so instinctively afraid of the dark.
This chilling opening establishes our core premise right out of the gate. The trees have memories, and sometimes those memories get hungry. It suggests that the true danger isn't bears or the freezing cold, but the conscious, predatory nature of the forest itself. It completely flips our perspective. We aren't dealing with simple wilderness survival here. We're dealing with an environment that remembers, that waits, and that actively hunts. It literally personifies the woods as a starving entity. Think about it. When a landscape itself is hungry, every single shadow becomes a mouth. And that strikes right at the absolute core of human vulnerability.
All right, let's get into Section 1, The Rules of the Woods, Survival Protocols.
So we learn that our main character, Elias, is a forest ranger living in complete geographical isolation. We're talking about a town so small it doesn't even show up on Google Maps. Now this immediately primes us for the terror of being totally cut off from the outside world. Just pause and think about that for a second. In our modern, hyper-connected world, the idea of having zero digital footprint is kind of terrifying all on its own, right? If something goes wrong out here, there's no backup. There is absolutely no cell service swooping in to save you. You are entirely on your own against whatever is waiting in the dark. It strips away every single modern safety net we rely on, forcing a direct confrontation with raw, untamed nature.
Now, what's really fascinating about these specific rules is how they reframe local folklore into rigid, procedural survival steps. The locals absolutely must follow these to survive the night. It's not just some generic, hey, be careful out there. It's highly specific. Keep your eyes on the dirt. That specific instruction implies that the danger relies on you making eye contact, or even just acknowledging its presence. Psychologically, it turns the simple, instinctual act of looking around your environment into a fatal mistake. You have to actively fight your human instinct to scan for threats, which builds this relentless, suffocating tension.
Moving right along to Section 2, Breaking the Silence, Protocols Unravel.
The author heavily leverages the concept of liminal spaces to make Elias's routine patrols feel deeply unnatural and intensely suspenseful. If you're not familiar, a liminal space is usually a place of transition, a hallway, a waiting room, or in this case, a foggy, isolated watchtower or an unnaturally empty trail. Our brains are hardwired to expect movement or purpose in these areas, so when they're perfectly still, it creates a deep psychological itch. It's this uncanny feeling that you're stuck in a loading screen of reality, where the normal rules just don't apply, and absolutely anything could glitch right into existence.
Just watch how rapidly this terror escalates from odd physical anomalies to completely impossible auditory hallucinations. First, it's just boots, perfectly placed right in the middle of a trail. It's strange, sure, but easily dismissed by a rational mind. But then, he hears 1920s music playing from a radio during a massive storm. Now the environment is actively manipulating time and sound, slowly eroding Elias's grip on reality. And then comes the ultimate trap, the voice of his mother, who passed away 10 years ago, calling out to him. The woods are explicitly weaponizing his own grief to force him to break that crucial rule. He's being baited to look up.
That brings us to Section 3, The Impossible Cabin, Logic Defied.
So, Elias breaks protocol by entering a sudden, impossible structure out in the woods, violating the core rule of staying focused on the familiar dirt path. When you patrol the exact same route every single day, you know every tree, every rock, and every bend in the trail. So stumbling upon an entire physical cabin that simply did not exist 24 hours ago, that shatters any remaining illusion of reality. It's entirely absurd. The horror here is pure cognitive dissonance. His brain knows for a fact it cannot be real, yet he is standing right in front of it.
Imagine this terrifying juxtaposition for a moment. You smell fresh, steaming hot food sitting in the middle of a space that has visibly been decaying and abandoned for decades. It's a dinner table, perfectly prepared for 4 people, but it's surrounded by thick rot and ruin. It's a sensory trap that makes absolutely zero logical sense. Psychologically, it completely scrambles Elias's threat detection because the environment is simultaneously offering comfort, warm food, and signaling extreme immediate danger. It's a setup specifically designed to lure him in and confuse him completely.
And here is where things get truly wild.
This brilliantly illustrates the horrific realization that Elias is not the observer here. He is the one actively being watched and hunted. Finding a Polaroid photo of yourself entering the very room you are currently standing in, taken from behind, that is an absolute gut punch. It immediately destroys the boundary between the past and the present. It means whatever built this trap was standing right behind him at the threshold just seconds ago. He is completely surrounded by a predator he can't even see.
Which leads us into Section 4, the Mimic Revealed, Entity Unmasked.
Instead of a traditional monster, like a wolf or a bear, the entity is a terrifying mimic. It stands before Elias, perfectly mirroring his exact appearance. We're talking wearing his jacket, his boots, even replicating the exact scar on his face. But the illusion fails at the eyes, leaving only empty, black pits. Now, this triggers what we call the uncanny valley. Our human brains are literally hardwired through evolution to detect disease or threats in things that look almost perfectly human, but just aren't quite right. It's a visceral, biological revulsion. The monster isn't just hunting him, it is literally trying to replace him.
The mimic tilts its head and weaponizes Elias's own identity against him, confirming that breaking that very first rule has sealed his fate. It doesn't roar, it doesn't scream, it just whispers to him, using his exact vocal cords. Why did you look up, Elias? This confirms that the rules of the town weren't just old campfire superstitions, they were the absolute laws of physics in this forest, and Elias just broke the biggest one.
What follows is a frantic escape through a shifting, looping environment where the geography of the woods themselves seems perfectly designed to trap him. It's a high-speed, psychological chase. He isn't just running through a normal forest. He's sprinting through a liminal loop where the trees shift, paths disappear into nothingness, and the environment actively works with the mimic to keep him completely disoriented and terrified. It is pure high-adrenaline panic where the very ground beneath his boots cannot be trusted for a second.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the Uncanny Aftermath, Lingering Trauma.
3 days. He has locked the doors and remained trapped inside his ranger station for 3 straight days, absolutely terrified to step a single foot outside. He survived the physical chase, sure, but the paranoia has completely paralyzed him. The safety of his station has really just become another kind of prison. The psychological toll of facing something that can look exactly like you and sound exactly like you leaves a permanent scar on the mind. Even behind locked steel doors, he is entirely consumed by the trauma of the woods.
The story leaves us with this deeply, deeply unsettling image. Every time he looks in the mirror and blinks, his reflection is delayed. It stays still for just a second longer than it should. Now this implies something incredibly dark. Perhaps the mimic followed him right into the station, or worse. Actually, think about this. Perhaps the mimic is the one who actually made it out of the woods, and the real Elias never left that cabin. It forces us as the audience to question reality right up to the final second.
I want to leave you with this final, chilling thought to ponder the next time you find yourself looking into a mirror all alone. The hungry echoes of Appalachia reminds us that sometimes surviving the woods isn't about running the fastest, it's about following the rules. So keep your eyes on the dirt. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay curious out there.